All right, Paul, if you would do us the honor in introducing us to our speaker, Tamela Trussell, please.
Okay, well, thank you, President Karen. And I just want to say that Rotary is a strong advocate of the environment. It's one of our 7 areas of focus, and over 33,000 Rotary clubs around the world are helping the environment, each in their own way. Well, last month at our Rotary District Conference here in Hershey, our environmental committee handed out small trees, and pollinator seeds packages to over 400 attending Rotarians from all around eastern Pennsylvania. And so we're involved in many projects around the world, including mangrove restoration, pollinator restoration, tree planting, solar panel installation, uh, food waste reduction, and so much more, including removing the plastic soup from the ocean. And so it's a special privilege today to introduce our speaker, who's a former teacher and a fierce advocate for the environment right here in our Rotary District in South Central Pennsylvania. She has always understood that knowledge brings freedom and responsibility. She founded TLC Education Foundation and also moved past plastic. She is the South Central Pennsylvania Climate Reality Chapter Chair. She's a Master Watershed Steward, serves with the Conadaguanat, got that wrong, Creek Watershed Association, and is an alarm stream team volunteer and is on the executive board of the Carlisle Climate Action Commission. She is passionate about sharing the interdependence of nature and humanity, what we do to our natural world, we do to ourselves. Please give a good Rotary welcome to my friend Tamela Trussell.
Thank you so much, Paul, for inviting me, and all of you Rotary members, and Karen for welcoming here today. So I know I have 20 minutes and there's a lot of slides. So things are going to be kind of rapid fire. I'm going to set my timer now. So we work with a lot of what I call big sister organizations, such as the Climate Reality. There's, I think, 4 chapters in Pennsylvania. But we work with Food and Water Watch, Citizens Climate Lobby, a bunch. Like, this is just a handful of who we work with. But we also work with local groups and NGOs, such as yourselves, I hope, to develop a partnership and to magnify our work and to try to stay out of silos and work together. So I have a quick question for you guys, and you are welcome to just pipe in. I labeled plastic the keystone issue about 4 years ago. And so I'm just wanting to ask you, why would I do that? Why do I consider plastic the keystone issue?
I know a regular
Well,
keystone is what keeps a bridge, intact.
Okay. Yeah. Paul?
I think one reason is because it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. And we've got to figure out a way to manage it properly, like we're trying to manage the climate.
Okay,
Same kind of problem.
these are great answers.
Largest, I
Anybody
think
else?
it's the largest amount of waste across the country.
All right. Anybody else? These are all great answers. So yes, the keystone is what holds up that bridge, that arch, and plastic is holding up the bridge and the arch of toxicity and contamination in our air, our water, and our soil. Also, a keystone species is a species that can tell you the health and well-being of all the other wildlife and in the ecosystem. And so plastic is quite healthy and is getting healthier every day for itself, and is suppressing the health and well-being of everything else around it. It has its tentacles in absolutely every aspect of our lives, as you will see today. So what are some reasons though that we like plastic? Because I think it's important to understand that there are positives. So what are some reasons we might like it?
More sterilized.
It's lightweight.
I would say because
Yeah.
it's disposable.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And it's given us a really an amazing ability to enhance art and design, right? Think about all the things that you can form and make out of it.
Mhm.
So, some of the reasons that you mentioned we like it are actually reasons that it's bad, such as it's disposable. So we'll cover that. So, kind of, what are some problems with plastic?
It doesn't biodegrade.
Okay.
Kills our environment.
Yeah.
Collects in the ocean.
And collects in our oceans. Yeah. Okay, wonderful. All right. So, let's see if I can do this presentation in my 20 minutes. I should be able to do it in that. But you're going to learn a lot and it will be a bit overwhelming, but I want it to inspire you and motivate you to understand the complexities of this issue, and that there are a lot of solutions because we'll be going over a bunch of them. And you can just don't get overwhelmed. Just remember, take one step in your learning, one step in doing something, and pick something that's digestible and doable for you. Okay. We are a no guilt zone here at Move Past Plastic because it's all around us. We can't avoid it no matter how much we try. So just keep that in mind. All right. So we try to engage with stories and case studies and research, art, history plays a lot of roles. We get into how it impacts our health, our legislation, our economics. So these are some things to think about as we outreach to our communities. So we're going to be going over the issues of plastic and the problems, how it's produced, the climate connections, why recycling is a myth, some social and environmental injustices, health impacts, and economic impacts. Then the second part will deal with our solutions. What is Move Past Plastic doing and how can you help? So there's a ton of plastic that's being created. No one really understands what the heck 460 million tons are, right? Like we can't even understand that. Like a bottle is huge, but it weighs nothing. But one of the things that you need to understand is basically the petrochemical industry has plastic as its plan B because we're moving to more energy efficiency, energy efficient homes, cars, so renewables. And so they want um, a they have this product that they want to sell. So they are going to make plastic with it. And only 5 to 6% of plastic is currently being recycled. As Paul said, a dump load truck of plastic enters our ocean every minute. However, I want you to understand that what you're seeing here that looks like litter is not the bulk of the problem. What you see on the surface of the ocean, which is approximately the first 10 meters, is only 1% of the plastic in that ocean. The 99% of the plastic is below that 10 meters. And the plastic in the entire ocean is only 3% of the plastic that we are dealing with in our environment. So if it's not in our oceans, where is it? It's on our land, it's in our rivers, and it's in our lakes, and it's in our water cycle. So just kind of understand that enormity, right? And as you guys have mentioned, it breaks down to micro and nanoplastics. A microplastic is a nanometer to the size of a pencil eraser, about 5 millimeters. And it just keeps breaking down smaller and smaller. And because of this, it is in our water cycle. It actually rains plastic on us. We breathe it in. It's 30% of the dust that we breathe and inhale. It's found absolutely everywhere. So where does plastic come from? Well, it starts with fracked gas, and there's a byproduct called ethane gas, which gets transported to a cracker plant. At this cracker plant, we break it into ethane and make these little rice-sized pellets called nurdles. And there is going to be a national nurdle hunt May 3rd. I have to look at it that you can do, and we've had some nurdle hunts. And then they send these nurdles to a manufacturer where they get extruded and molded, and then we consume them. And then it quickly, 44% of all plastic made is single use, being used for less than 3 minutes, and it ends up in the disposal. So that's kind of what we want to deal with, right? Is that single use plastic that we use for seconds. We were taught by the petrochemical industry to dispose. I remember growing up, it was not a thing you did, right? You didn't dispose, you reused. The climate connection is that it accounts for 10% of all carbon emissions, and it's the second largest industry when it comes to pollution behind the oil and gas industry. In fact, oh, it's not showing this full slide. That's weird. 189 power coal plants it equated to in 2017 that are 500 megawatt size. And you can see the projection for the build out of new plastic cracker plants and production just going really through the roof, right? So what do we do with our plastic? Well, 85% ends up in the landfill, 10% gets incinerated, 5% gets recycled. Now, bear in mind, the industry will throw around a term of recycling, and it will be not really recycling, it'll be downcycling. And what I mean by that is if you take a plastic bottle and you create a plastic bottle, that's recycling. If you take a plastic bottle or a plastic tub that has a resin 5 symbol or something on it, and you create fleece jackets, park benches, carpets, that's called downcycling, okay? Also, a plastic bottle can only be recycled 3 times, and it takes either only uses 30% or takes 30% of virgin plastic. All of a sudden, my mind isn't clear on that. But anyways, point being, it takes some virgin plastic, and you can only recycle a plastic bottle 3 times because it just breaks down. So a lot goes into our landfills, as we've talked about. And you can see through this chart that recycling has never been a solution, right? It can be a piece or a part of the solution if done right, but it is not the solution like the petrochemical industry has led us to believe. And there's lawsuits over it right now because it's in their records that they were trying to pull the wool over our eyes, and they did a great job, and they're still trying to do it with chemical recycling. We'll get into that later. Looking at this picture in front of Prairie, that big pile, I did a trash audit at my home. All of that plastic is not recyclable. The only plastic that is recyclable is back by Starbucks, that pile, which is a neck smaller than the base, resin 1 and 2. And by the way, those are resin numbers, not recycling numbers. There's about 400 resin types. Number 7 accounts for the 394 of the resins, all lumped in resin 7. So that's something to understand. So this is the ethane chain, or the plastic chain. You can see from extraction, cracker plant, goes to products. It's in our food, what we wear, tires, adhesives, and our building materials. And what we're going to get into is, it creates a social injustice and environmental injustice, because those manufacturing and drilling and pipelines, these produce noise, light, pollution that people and wildlife are exposed to, contaminate groundwater and air, oil spills, and incinerators, and the waste management, like the landfills and things like that. And so if you're around there, you're getting a lot more of the toxicities than people who aren't on the quote front line of that chart that I showed earlier. So all of this creates health harms because it is in our air, water, and soil. You are basically 1 bottle of water, like you just get plastic bottle, you are ingesting, almost 100 particles from 1 bottle. And actually, they have shown that it's much more than that when including, like, in the almost 100,000, or I have to pull that statistic and redo this slide, because now that they're able to, with different scientific tools, they've tested thousands, hundreds of pieces of plastic, of nanoplastic. So it's in a lot. Here it is in a macroinvertebrate, which is, the kind of the food chain in our rivers and creeks, and you can see the microplastic fibers in this image. About 30,000 pounds per U.S. citizen per year are produced of chemicals. Most of them are for the petrochemical industry, for making plastics, pharmaceuticals, and agricultural uses. About of the 350,000 chemicals that are out there worldwide, only a fraction have ever been tested for health safety. And only a fraction of those have been tested for safety for the most vulnerable population, which is our fetus, newborns, and our children. There are 4,200 highly hazardous chemicals in plastic, and 144 of them are in our food packaging. And these are everything from retardants, hardeners, softeners, lubricants, stabilizers, PFAS. The Stockholm Convention has declared that these novel entities or man-made chemicals have passed the planetary boundary of safety. You can see here in green, and this is the novel entities here. Climate is here in the center pie. So novel entities are much, much worse, although they do have a new pie chart that is showing climate rising. And a lot of that is because of this interplay. And of course, that's hampering our biodiversity greatly, great jeopardy. And then you see over here, your nitrogen and phosphate cycle is off the planetary boundary of safety. And that kind of brings in the agricultural aspect of things. So these are just a handful, and I mean a handful only of the many, many health harms. And there's new health harms being discovered every day from Alzheimer's to diabetes, autism. There's so many things. This is for PFAS, which is per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, which is considered a forever chemical because the carbon and fluorine bond don't break down. These are some of the health harms for it. And you can see there's an overlap with plastic in general. Part of that's because PFAS are in every piece of plastic, because when you push the pellets through the molders and extruders to keep them from gunking up, they use PFAS. PFAS resist heat, oil, and water. It was created in World War II, I think. Some of the things that you can find PFAS on, as well as the other toxic chemicals from plastic, are just everyday personal care items, our clothing and textiles, fishing line, ink, paper, toilet paper, baby diapers. It's in everything, our cookware, firefighting foam. It's in almost every building material. So it's surrounding us. So when you think of plastic, I don't want you to think of just litter anymore. I want you to go microplastics and chemical. Plastics equals chemicals. And so this has crossed the blood-brain barrier. It's crossed the placental barrier. It's in the baby's first bowel movement and every part of the new infant's body. You can see the disease rate is shot up to 307% over the last 30 years because our production has shot up as well. You have $3.7 trillion of economic cost, and these don't even include much of the health cost. They're including things like shipping and fisheries and I can't remember the other one that they're including in that, but it's leaving out a whole bunch of other things. So in just 2018 for the US, it's almost $250 billion in healthcare expenses alone. So how do we stop the plastic invasion? So just to recap, we have our reasons for wanting to stop it is because it's made from fossil fuel, high carbon footprint, hundreds of years, thousands of years to break down, very little's recycled, leaches toxins and endocrine disrupting, cancer causing chemicals, pollutes our oceans, wildlife, and enters our food chain. So some personal things that you can do. Try to buy less single-use plastic. You can see I'm not perfect. I've got bread back there, my potatoes, got mushrooms, and I've got frozen veg, right? But I tried my best where I could, okay? And that's what you guys have to do. Just try your best. Every little bit helps. I put these fresh vegetables directly on the conveyor belt. Then I put them into my own reusable bags. Some are plastic because that's what they were, gave out when they first started. And then some I've made some out of natural fibers, right? But I'm not going to throw away the plastic bags that I have because that would just, perpetuate the problem. And try to buy natural organic products and don't heat and cook in plastic and store your food in plastic. We need to flip the triangle upside down. Our focus is on disposal, which, as you can see with recycling, landfilling, incineration, is not helpful. So we need to start with decreasing the amount of plastic, period. that we put in, especially for the single use, right? And then think about a reuse economy and refill, repurpose, repair. We need right to repair laws. You can help by writing letters to the editor, op-eds, sign-on letters, talking to your legislator to get laws that help reduce single-use plastic and the chemical toxicities from them. One good bill that you can reference, and this bill will never pass because it has too many components, but you can take a piece of it and try and pass it. So you can get bag ban ordinances or polystyrene, or get PFAS out of your food packaging or clothing, or refill programs. Bottle bills are great. Let's not ship our waste to other countries. We're the only one that hasn't signed not the Geneva Convention. I'm going to go and forget it now. Kubali? There's two of them, but we're the only country basically that hasn't signed on, that we can't just take our waste to third world countries, basically. So there's actually a big plastic illicit trade. The zero waste PA laws are just coming out, and so we are looking at those, and we'll be investigating those at our next meeting and which ones we want to concentrate on and deal with. A lot of them are weak, and a lot of them put the onus and the responsibility on the consumer rather than the producer of the waste. So we don't want that. So these are some of the different campaigns that we work on with Move Past Plastic, but we're always supporting other people's work as well. But we do a lot with synthetic playing surfaces, PFAS, skip the stuff, bring your own reusables, a PVC campaign, sustainable fashion. And so Eyes on Shell, that's the beaver cracker plant. And so we work with them and try to help them. I haven't found any nurdles in the nurdle hunt that I've done here, but like I said, that's looking for those little rice pellets. We helped stop the Encina Advanced Recycling Plant be put in Point Township, PA. So that was really good. It releases very harmful chemicals, is not a solution. Once again, it's just a way for them to keep producing and fracking more gas. We're trying to get municipalities to replace their lead pipes, not with PVC, but like recycled copper and stainless and things. Like I said, we are working with Food and Water Watch and other groups to get bag bans and get reusables in schools. They have really nice grants, and we have case studies and how much money restaurants and schools can save by moving to reusables, because money is what matters, right? You can just start a bring your own. So bring your own bags, bring your own takeout or leftovers container, whatever, right? Like I said, a lot with PFAS we're working on. We did a plastic take back where we wrote letters to the president of Giant and Walmart, and Ahold Hayes, which is a umbrella company over 10 grocery stores. Their sustainability president responded back to us, and we had several emails and conversations, and these were the things we were wanting them to do. So you can get school buses in your schools. You can come help us at rallies and talking to the legislators. You can work on, like I said, sustainable fashion, have outreach educational events, tabling events. We did Earth Day tabling event. Here in the bottom corner, he's holding up a jar of lint that I got from my filter to see how much lint we eat and our ingest and breathe in a week. And that pile right there is how much. And that is equal to 5 gram cubes, which are very tiny little. And our last big campaign that we started a little over a year ago, and we are just going to be sending out the final report hopefully tomorrow for the project. And that's where we wanted to find out where the point and non-point source pollutants were in the Connedaguinet Creek watershed, to figure out where we need to further test and monitor or remediate. In order to stop the pollutants from getting in a watershed. This watershed has about 40 municipalities, and they get their drinking water from this creek. And we have found up to 6,000 parts per trillion of PFAS contamination, and 1 to 2 is like not safe. And what that equates to is if you take a piece of salt and you break it and you throw it in an Olympic-sized swimming pool, like just a little nip of that little piece of salt, that's toxic for PFAS. Okay, so 6,000 parts per trillion versus 1 and 2 in these private wells. And then I just tested outside of a legacy landfill and got 600. So we want to stop the pollutants from getting in, because our drinking water is going to have to pay to filter, and so will yours. So knowing where your potential toxicities are, testing for them, stopping them is better than trying to remove it later, which is very expensive. And so I started that journey with this iron oxidizing bacteria stream from that legacy landfill. I have a bunch of slides in here that talk more about point source and non-point source and, things which we don't need to get into. But the one that I do want to just hit on is one that people aren't aware of. And I don't know if your group is, but the artificial plane surfaces, the artificial grass, and this is called poured in place, and that's what this is. They are the second, or arguably the first, most toxic thing we create next to the PVC. And we're saying, hey kids, come play on it. And then we're calling it recycling. And it's not. And you have, it breaks up, and these chemicals and toxicities get in our watershed. These are just a handful of them here, and they impact our trout. We have pristine trout fishing streams. They're so toxic. Our landfills don't want them, so they just get dumped in the middle of our waterways, in the middle of our parks, and our and then taken to agricultural farms, which is not where we want it, right? Because these chemicals are leaching out into what we're going to be eating and drinking. So ways you can help with this project is you can fill out this comment form. Let us know. We've created a pollution report form, so you can report your synthetic plane surfaces. You can report disease in dead fish, smells, food processing residuals, you name it. Anything you see, like you come across that stream like I did, report it. Once it gets vetted, it also will bounce you to DEP's reporting site. If you don't put that you reported it to DEP, because maybe it doesn't need to be, right? Like, so for those synthetic plane surfaces, I'm not going to report that to DEP. But if something needed to be reported and you didn't, we'll report it, and we can report it on your behalf to keep your anonymity. But the circles that are in the red with the yellow, those are those first-hand reports or community reports. These other ones are from like regulatory agencies, USGS data coming in there. Then we have what's called a creek snapshot. So you can share with us what you want to protect, why you love it. So I know, Karen, you were talking about how much you are loving your spring. So like, take a picture of your cat basking in the sun, doesn't matter, post it. Post any news or pollution event you have, or if you have an event, you can post it. This is here for the community. And we hosted a paddle and a presentation at Bosler Library. So get out and enjoy what we are trying to protect. And that's a great way. Public outreach, all kinds of things. We hosted a series of conversations. So everything that I just went over, I spent one 40-minute talk on each of those for 12 months. And those are recorded. Actually, I think I didn't finish the last 4 months because I started the Creek Defenders Project and I couldn't do everything. So lastly, to just finish up, buried out of sight, everything we make returns to the earth as food or poison. So solutions: produce less plastic, use alternative regenerative reuse models, support good recycling, which I was just on a webinar today with new technologies and things that are going to help. And they have a bunch of things planned. So we're not saying recycling is bad. It's just, it's got to be done right. And it will only take care of a little bit. And then avoid the false solutions. And here is a QR code from that webinar I went to today that can tell you more about the whole recycling thing. I thought I'd throw that in there last minute. Here's the QR code you can get to the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act. And basically, thank you, Rotary Club, for having me here today, as this man just floated by several pieces of plastic and didn't bother to collect them. And we are on social media, and you can help with any of our events. That's it.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Tamela. Before I let you go, I've got a question. That cracker plant that was proposed on the up further on the Susquehanna Valley, Susquehanna River, is that still an issue?
So I think you might be getting two things confused. The beaver cracker plant is the size of a city, and that is up and it is running and it is polluting, and putting all kinds of toxins into the air, nurdles into our river. They will wash down our way. But the Encina Advanced Chemical Recycling Plant, we did get that run out of our town. But we weren't satisfied with just running it out of our neck of the woods, because it's not like we're saying, oh, we don't want it in our backyard, but it's okay to go to yours. So we've been trying to follow them and track them and help the communities, because they're putting it in communities that are really small and they don't know things, and they don't, they're not able to fight back because they come in and say, oh, we're going to give you all this money, it's going to create all these jobs, and jobs that are going to give people cancer and not a lot of money, and it's going to contaminate the waterway. So we're following up and trying to help wherever it is they're trying to pivot and plant themselves. But it's a lot, because there's a lot of petrochemical industries trying to build them, right? And we can't fight them all, but we are trying to track this particular one.
So I've got a little bit of good news, because I was reading, I'm a chemical engineer, and I was reading in my journal this month that scientists in India have found a way to filter out PFAS.
Send that to me.
And that can be done at the tap.
Yeah. So like, I installed a reverse osmosis for my home kitchen sink. That's your best thing you can do. You can get a tabletop and a pitcher. You have to make sure it's NSF certified 53 for filtering. So like, your Brita filter is not going to take out PFAS. I have toolkits for everything you want to know about PFAS, and we've made 2 one-page infographics that can help you with just simple things you can do to help minimize your exposure from plastic and its chemicals. But as far as, yes, there's a lot of current research going on to how to remove PFAS. But a lot of them will just remove one type. There's about 16,000 types of PFAS. And right now, Pennsylvania is regulating two, PFOS and PFOA. But EPA proposed, we're going to see where it goes with the new administration. They just put out a report, was it yesterday or today? I get lost in my email, where they are proposing 6 PFAS in a group and then 4 others. But that's kind of like whack-a-mole, right? So we want to push for the whole class of PFAS to be regulated, and we want to push for the industries that are working with PFAS and discharging them to have discharge limits, right? Because once again, if we can prevent them from being on our products and getting discharged into our water that we drink, that's better than trying to clean it up. Because right now, cleanup is energy intensive and it only collects the PFAS, and you got to take that somewhere and it's going to sit there and contaminate. And so the best place to take it is to create a monofill. So when the technology is up and running, we can take it and detox that monofill, right? And now your regular landfill will be filled with PFAS too, right? Because it's on everything. But it's less concentrated, like than coming out of your wastewater treatment plant. You actually have more PFAS exiting a wastewater treatment plant and that effluent going into your water for the next municipality to get their drinking water than you do. So we want to prevent biosolids being spread in our farm fields, or at least test the biosolids before they're spread, and a bunch of things. But yeah, there is stuff out there, and there's bacteria, and there's organisms that eat plastics, certain ones, but once again, there's so many types, and there's so much plastic that it's like over 10 meters deep. They've done core samples and it's there. So we can't wait for that, right? We need to push the tap off.
Thank you. Thank you, Tamela.
Yeah.
Yes, it's sobering.
Yeah.
Oh, we're
I know.
right now.
I tried to warn you guys. I'm like, but what I want to do, like I said,
You gotta know this stuff.
yeah. And I want to let you know just how big of a problem it is to just kind of ignite your brains to go, oh, this is important. This isn't impacting me and our children, and we should do something about it. And pick one thing, right? And your one thing may just be to quit microwaving out of plastic containers. Start there, right? Just start with something simple. And then if you can do more, if you want to write a letter to an editor, if you want to, host an educational tabling event, if there's so many things that we can do. Just find something and just do one thing every week, every month, and it'll matter. And just knowing it and decreasing your toxicities in your life. And so go on to the Move Past Plastic website, subscribe. You'll get emails from me. I don't care what you do with the information. You can trash it, you can pass it on, you can reach out to me and say, hey, I see you're doing this, I want to contribute. I don't bug you. So if you do want to help, please know I want your help. If your Rotary chapter wants to engage and do something, or you need my help in doing something, please reach out to me. I'll help you whatever way I can. And because each one of us will make a difference. And you touch 2 people, 3 people, they touch 2 or 3 people, and it will percolate. And then you can go on the website and, like I said, and download those one-pagers and make yourself more happy, because I'm giving you an instant things to do on there and resources. Okay, guys? All right.
Thank you.
Good rest of your meeting. I'm so happy for you tonight.